Tanse, it's an honor to be with you all today. I want to share with you that some of the teachings I'm going to share with you today come before my time. My goal today is that when we exit those doors, we go back to our professional field of practice, that you leave with tools that will allow you to have the courage to tell your own story. The reason I am heavily invested in storytelling, because that's how I was raised ever since I was a kid. I grew up in a place called Sweetgrass First Nation by North Battleford, Saskatchewan. And when I grew up there, the main way that we would learn was sitting around elders growing up. Oftentimes we'd be sitting on the floor. And when we'd be sitting on the floor, these elders would speak to us. They would tell story upon story upon story. And these stories were so heavily invested in an outcome. This outcome had a teaching moment. And the teaching moment get embedded into our subconscious mind. And it stayed with us up until we carry that journey until we're no longer here. That's the power of storytelling. Everyone has a turning point event in their life that brought you here in this room today. Everyone has a turning point event in their life where you could have went this way or this way, but you chose your field of practice. You chose to become a professional. You chose to help people meet their needs, meet their goals, and so on. And it brought you here today. Not a coincidence. I want you to think about that turning point event that you've experienced in your life. Because this turning point event is going to help shape your future as we exit these doors today. It's going to create belief in your client's eyes, your future client's eyes. It's going to create loyalty, longevity of your business for as long as you want to be in it. So I want you to think about that as I'm speaking today. What is my turning point event? Some of us, it's a painful moment, a struggle moment. We had to overcome something. Maybe we lost something. Maybe a door closed in our face and another one opened. And that was the door that brought you here today. Only you're going to know that story. As children, we used to sit on the ground. There'd be an elder sitting oftentimes on a little chair or sometimes joining us on the ground. And as we'd be sitting on the ground, this elder would speak to us. We didn't ever speak. It was always the elder. As we would sit there, we had no choice but to bow our head and give our ears the attention and respect to whoever was speaking. So as children, we had no choice but to adopt a listening form of learning. And oftentimes, you would glance up, look down, glance up, look down. We weren't permitted to really stare at each other. So oftentimes, you'll see Indigenous peoples, maybe you have clients like this. We have a hard time maintaining eye contact oftentimes. This comes from our teachings, our ceremonies, and so on, where in our world, it's very disrespectful to stare at each other. So if you see me at the meet and greet, or you see me at the photo signing, you might see my eye go like this, trying to look away from you. I don't know. I'm trying to stare, but I'm trying to train myself. I had to learn that when I stepped through these doors as a university student, when I got into business, and then I became a speaker, author, and so on. I had to learn how to network, to live in this world, and so on. Many of us come from two different worlds. You come from the world where you were raised in, everything you were taught about society, your belief system, your language. You walk into this world where you're working with clients, you're working with the mainstream, and you have to adapt very quickly. Sometimes you even have to change your accent a bit. I had to do that many times. I walk back out that door, I go back to my community, I have to go adopt a different way of doing things. Because the world, when I go back home to our culture, our ceremony, you're sitting now on the ground. You're being humble. You are no greater than the certain people sitting beside you. What's the turning point event that brought you here today? Some of us, it's struggle. Some of us, it's overcoming an obstacle. When these obstacles come into our life, this is what I was told by sitting in a room like this. They used to say, when these obstacles come into your life, oftentimes they come to help you, to push you somewhere. That wouldn't happen unless an uncomfortable event happened in your life. Unless a problem came into your life, an obstacle. And when it come into your life, you have no choice but to act now. these challenges, these problems happen for us. And when we look at life that way, we'll oftentimes see that that's where growth happens, when we're uncomfortable. We all know this. We're all sitting in here. Many of us are athletes in this room. Me, I was an athlete. Not so much anymore. But you get where we're going with this. It's when you're uncomfortable. You're on that last rep. You want to quit. This is where the true growth happens. Same thing as individuals in our life journey, in our business journey. When we're uncomfortable, this is where growth happens. We get taught things about ourselves. Now, I want to tell you a few stories today while I'm up here. I want to tell you a life turning point event, and I also want to tell you how I got into business turning point event and what I tell my customers. Because if I could tell you one thing today, one thing that grew my companies, one thing that sold thousands of products, one thing that gets me booked on stages and so on, sells thousands of books every year, it's this. It's the power of storytelling. But those who have the courage to tell their stories and put themselves out there, they're the ones who are going to be at the end of that finish line, while the rest are trying to catch up to them. And I want to give you a bonus tip here. It's the ones who tell a story that have a purpose-driven mission behind it. What is your purpose-driven mission in your life journey? They used to say right here when we were sitting, they used to say, when you're born here, you're given a purpose. You're given gifts, you're given talents, you're given abilities. You're walking down this long road of life, and on this long road of life, there's going to be things that will happen to you. People will come into your life to try help you. People that will come and test you, teach you things, help you along your journey. People that will try to take away from your path. People who are only meant to be there for a season, not your lifeline, because they're meant to teach you something about yourself. You're going to have clients like this. Some you're going to love to work with, some you're not going to really care for. But there's something there that's going to teach you about being appreciative to what's to come in the future. So as you're walking every step on your lifeline, events like this will happen. You're building your story. And you come to a turning point event that brings you to a why. You could choose to go this way, or you could choose to go this way. And when you hit that why, you're going to make a choice, because that's one of the things we've been given as human beings, the power of choice, the power to use our mind. And everything that goes into our mind dictates our physical actions, how we speak to each other, how we treat each other, how we walk in through the door. And so when we're living life, we come to that why. I know for a fact that everyone in this room has a turning point event that brought you here. As we leave today, here's my challenge to everyone. Before this event's over, I encourage you to do this one thing for me. Find the turning point event. If you don't know it, think about it right now. Get the clarity. Oftentimes, we're very hard on ourselves as human beings. It's right there oftentimes. What's the turning point event? I want you to write it down. If you don't like writing, then go on your phone, record yourself talking about this turning point event story that brought you here today. And the last thing I want you to do as we're wrapping up today, hopefully by end of today, is I want you to publish that video. And I want you to share it to all of your contacts on social media, on your Facebook, your Twitter, Instagram threads, all the new stuff that's up, TikTok. And I want you to see what happens. At the end of that video, I want you to have a call to action that brings them back to you, your website, your whatever it is that you're trying to sell, a product or service. This simple 3-step formula is what I did when I was selling my first t-shirt out of my backpack. I used to tell people what my why was. Right away I did. They'd say, well, why should I buy your shirt, Kendal? So I'd have to explain my childhood story. I had to explain a lot of things. I used to have to tell people that the reason I'm trying to sell this brand, and I used to have to get up on stages like this. I was never a public speaker growing up. In fact, growing up when you're around people who listen, subconsciously, all you've been taught is to listen, so you don't ever get a chance to speak. So when the teacher in grade 5 calls your name up to go up to the front of the class, it's very intimidating. But that's where growth happens. My first professional presentation. You know what happened as I was getting up the stairs? Thankfully, I wasn't getting up the stairs today. I would have got some trigger flashbacks. I fell down the stairs. Man, I was embarrassing. And I used to have these notes in my pocket, and I used to have to speak at a podium like this. And I remember ruffling that paper around, and I was just so nervous. And I was thinking, man, I wanted to quit there. I didn't want to go back. But if I didn't go back, I wouldn't be here with you right now. I wouldn't get a chance to do this and speak to people every single year, different audiences around the globe. It's a privilege. Guess what? Where you're at is a privilege. Your ability to serve people. This world is better because of each and every one of you in this room. You're helping people to look after themselves. My wish is I wish there was more Indigenous people in this field. Why? Because my people are suffering. A lot of us are having health issues. Diabetes is rampant in my communities. My mom is even suffering from that. My grandma suffered from that. And so we always have to be aware and teach ourselves to look after ourselves. I look up to all of you. You've chosen a field where you're looking to help this world. And every ripple effect that you're leaving, you're helping someone to look after themselves, and they're going to help their children, their grandkids, their family members, just by being associated with you. Your energy is powerful. How you leave a room, how you leave a training session is going to have a ripple effect on people's lives around you. That's why when I remember sitting here, they used to say, watch how you talk to people, Kendal. Watch the words that you say. Because the words that you say can uplift someone to see another day, or can cause a ripple effect, and maybe that's the last time you see them. That's the power of words, they would say. So I used to get scared growing up when they'd have these very serious conversations with me. Got to watch what we say. We've got to watch the stories that we tell each other. The stories that we tell can uplift, can bring people back, or can create gossip, hurting events where people spread a lot of negativity, which is not what we want. Always choose the light. Always choose what is right. It comes from here. All of us, we have this ability to feel what is right. You know by the people that you sit with, the people that you come in contact with, if you like them or not. Oftentimes that comes from here, they would say. Our intuition, how we feel, the energy in the room. And that energy that you bring, connected with the people around you, can be very powerful if you're both on the right alignment to a similar goal.